Looks like it. Howdy, and welcome everybody to this week's episode of the Halo Hot Take Showdown. My name is Fernando, the Lone Star Halo, back like I never left. Joined here by Vince, the Angels Cowboy. We are going to talk about the Angels. Of course, we'll talk a little bit about that National Series. And of course, this week's Hot Take. All that and more coming up after this.
Texas plains, hot takes flying right off the range. Lone Star Halo Cowboy Vince, calling it bold, never on the fence. Hold down time, turn it up loud. Hot takes are ringing, drawing a crowd. No matter how wild, no matter how strange, ain't no limit on the takes we say.
How's it going, everybody? Like I said, welcome to this week's episode of the Halo Hot Take Showdown. Me, of course, Fernando, the Lone Star Halo. That, of course, is Vince, the Angels Cowboy. Before we get into anything, make sure you give us a 5-star review, please. We really appreciate it. Like, comment, subscribe. Helps us fight the algorithm, the dreaded A word that all content creators talk about. The dreaded algorithm. It's the worst. But all support is appreciated. Give us a follow at Halos in the Infield on any social media platform. And while you're at it, make sure you follow Vince, the Angels Cowboy, if you don't already. That is at Angels_Cowboy. He's doing a lot of fun videos and stuff over there. Maybe he'll allude to a couple of those later, but I'm sure he'd prefer if you check it out yourself. So make sure you give him a follow. Vince, how you doing?
Well, doing good. And can you believe it's July already? We were talking about this a few weeks ago, how the season just goes by super quick. And now it's about to be 4th of July, so the midway point also of the season. Everyone's already passed their 81 games. And then guess what? In a couple weeks, we're going to be talking about the first half of the season at least, and the All-Star break. So yeah, it's a fun time because baseball is the only sport right now. The NBA Finals are done. The Stanley Cup Finals are done. Now everybody can just focus on one sport. But before you know it, guess what? The NFL season wraps up, but we're not ready for that yet.
Yeah, I don't watch football, so it don't matter to me. It is baseball year-round for the Lone Star Halo. We are here to talk baseball today, and the greatest sport on earth, if I can say so myself. But you know what? The Angels have officially passed the midway point, and mid is the best way to describe them, because they've been at or under 500 for the greatest part of the last month, really. They just can't get past that hurdle. You know, dollar short, day late every single game. You know, you think they're going to get over the 500 hump, and they never really do. Now, Vince, do you think this is what the Angels will be? Or at some point is something going to give and they're either going to take off or they're going to start to decelerate, if you will?
Man, it could go either way. Like we always talk about, that's the beauty of baseball, that everything everything happens for a reason. And also, just because you start slow doesn't mean you're going to finish slow, and vice versa. Yeah, but you're right. Mid is kind of the way to describe this season. They're always stuck at 500, and I've noticed in the at least this past series against the Nationals, they take a step forward and 2 steps back. It's the age-old saying that's been going on.
Like a line dance.
Yeah, exactly. So it's a saying that's been going around in every single sport. It's not just in baseball, and it's not just the Angels. It happens to every single team. But, yeah, it's this past series against the Nationals, I kind of was a little bit disappointed. I think it should have been a lot better. There were some unnecessary mistakes that were made. There was also poor managing, in my opinion. But on top of that, I do see how the Angels season is. I kind of sensed that it was going to be around there, around 500. maybe even lower, of course. I really thought we probably around this time we're going to be maybe 1 or 2 games below 500, but we're at the 500 point. And for some reason, like you said, we just can't get over that hump. It's like we're allergic to above 500 for some reason. But as long as the young players get their licks in and they start producing the way that we expect them to, Christian Moore, for example, who has his clutch moments. He had a couple of clutch moments this past weekend. If Zach Neto keeps staying healthy, yeah, he has that lingering shoulder injury, but it looks like he's doing pretty good. He's been back in the lineup in the Atlanta series, so hopes for there. And then if Logan O'Hoppe can just keep swinging the bat a lot more, he hasn't been disciplined lately. Maybe he just needs some more work in the cage on how to lay off certain pitches and whatnot, and better tracking. I think he needs to do more tracking drills in the cage, and then he's going to erupt some way, somehow, at some point.
Real quick, just a quick pause. Silly me, I just realized we should probably acknowledge the fact that we're coming on earlier this time of the week than normal, just in case anyone's like, wait, it's not Friday. What? Well, what's going on here? Yes, we did change this week. The Lone Star Halo show will be back to the end of the week. And instead, we're doing the Halo Hot Take Hoedown show. So you're not crazy, at least not for this. I can't judge for anything else. I'm not a psychiatrist. But we just switched days this week. So look for the Lone Star Halo show later on in the week. And that's why we're going a little earlier for the Hot Take Hoedown this week. Vince had something that he asked for us to change. And, of course, we are happy to accommodate. But anyway, as you were saying, yeah, there is a lot of positives as of right now. You know, we had said, hey, Christian Moore's ready to be a major leaguer. And some people were like, oh, yeah, we agree. And some people were like, you guys are crazy. He came up, struggled a little bit in the early going. But I think Christian Moore has proven that he does belong at the major league level. I understand this guy's batting 189, right? But let's keep in mind, this is a guy that a year ago was in the College World Series in Omaha, right? Is it Omaha, Nebraska? That's where they play it?
That is correct, yes.
I don't watch college baseball, if you couldn't tell. But yes, he was in the College World Series for Tennessee. So with that being said, he's been pretty good defensively. Not a lot of defensive blunders out of this kid, you know. Still getting comfortable, of course, still getting his feet wet. That's to be expected at this level. And you know what? For a 22-year-old guy who is adjusting to the majors, I expect there to be a couple of defensive errors, and those really haven't come yet, but they will, right? He's a 22-year-old kid. It's going to happen. You know, I don't mind the ebbs and flows that come with being a major leaguer when you're 22 years old. I don't even mind if the guy gets in a rut where he could hit water if he fell off a boat. That's normal when you are a 22-year-old kid. Neto goes through it. Look at O'Hoppe right now. The guy's scuffling. That doesn't mean that any of us are thinking any less of Logan, but that doesn't change the fact that he is still a young guy trying to figure it out. Nolan Schanuel, same thing, you know, and we'll talk a little bit about him later. But I like what I've seen out of Christian Moore so far. I like the clutch gene he's shown. Zach Neto has proven to be clutch before. Christian Moore is now proving that he has a clutch gene. And this is a kid who's still figuring it out, Vince. What's going to happen when he's truly comfortable facing major league pitching? Honestly, I said in the group chat, people might call me crazy, but I think in a couple seasons, this could very well be Christian Moore's team. With the swagger this kid has, with the presence he has up there in the box already, I can maybe see him being the face of the franchise in 2 or 3 seasons. Because right now we're talking about, is it Neto or O'Hoppe? What about Christian Moore?
I think you do have to wait a couple years to find out. Right now, it seems like, as we mentioned last month, it is Zach Neto's team, at least for the next few years, because of his swagger and everything he has. And also Christian Moore has that too. And I believe that that those two do have a connection and they do have a tight bond, and they just barely met. You got to keep that in mind. The last time that they spent like a month together was spring training. They were doing drills, middle infielder drills. Well, actually, I don't even think they were, because Neto was rehabbing. So yeah, I forgot about that part. But if anything, they probably
they were talking. You know what I mean? They were getting to know each other.
Exactly. So they start building that bond. And that's the one thing that people forget about spring training is that spring training was created for two reasons. Number one, people forget that back in the golden age of baseball, the players did work in the off season. They were making extra side cash. They weren't just depending on their salaries in the major leagues just playing baseball. It's not like today. You can depend on salary. You can live off that, and you're making millions of dollars. But back in the day, you were playing baseball and you were working as part time. So they were working on the docks and they were working in the fields and everywhere else because a lot of these players were farmers and they were ranchers too. They were countrymen. So spring training was created to basically get back in that groove instead of going into baseball right away, because you're not going to do so well if you just get into the regular season.
Yeah.
So
there were guys that couldn't play, during the off season.
Exactly. Yeah. So spring training was created to not only get back into the game, but also it was to reunite and get along with your players and see how well you can bond with each other and see if basically the managers would critique on every single player and think like, okay, who fits well here? These two get along. These two don't get along. Do we separate these two? Do we figure it out? All things like that. And that's what Neto and Moore have been doing. And I feel like even though Neto and Ohapi have bonded a lot, in fact, it's just like I can tell they bond a lot because when I asked Logan Ohapi at the autograph signing, the way he spoke about Neto was like a best friend, basically. So there's a bond right there. Now, just wait until Christian Moore gets into the mix, and when you have those two in the middle infield with Moore and Neto, it's going to be a lot of fun because I guarantee you they're working on drills together during their days off, and they're figuring out like, okay, how do we work with each other, because they know that they're going to be future. They're going to be teammates for at least the next 5 seasons. So, and that's what you need. You need to have the young core to basically stay tight and keep building a bond for incoming players, whether they get drafted or even the ones in the minor leagues that get called up. Right now, it looks like it's at the core 4 at the point would be Ohapi, Neto, Moore, and Schanuel. And you could maybe do a Fab 5 too. If you were to do a Fab 5, you'd probably throw in the mix of Matthew Lugo when he finally gets his groove back, and he could possibly be a full-time right fielder or center fielder in the future as well. So, yeah, I do agree with you, Fernando. It could be Christian Moore's team. It's just not at the moment. It's going to take a few years for him to get to that point. Right now, in my opinion, he's probably fourth in line in the core 4. In the order, I'd say Neto, Ohapi, Schanuel, and then Moore.
Yeah, I can easily see a path where Moore is able to surpass Schanuel and what he's doing. Nolan Schanuel doesn't strike me as somebody who will be like a guy or the guy. Or sorry. He doesn't strike me as somebody who can be the guy. Can he be a guy? Of course. But, I don't see a path where he runs away with like being like, one of the big superstars on this team. But, you either have the it factor or you don't, right? Some guys just have it. And you can see Christian Moore has it. He has that swagger. And I know so many people hate that word. He plays with it, though. And so does Neto, right? Those are the type of guys that people want to play for. We said all the time for years, oh, well, people want to play for Trout. Okay, well, this isn't me bagging on Trout, but then how come a lot of other players weren't coming to play with Trout, right? Look, the history speaks for itself. How many major leaguers who were stars elsewhere came over and said, hey, I want to help this guy win championships? Look, Todd hates LeBron James, right? That's no secret. Anybody who's been listening to this network for years knows, okay? And, for whatever his reasons are, that's fine, right? They're valid for, everyone's opinion is valid. But the point is, people used to come out of the woodwork to play with LeBron James, right? People would take less money to go play for Tom Brady and the Patriots, right? because those guys were respected and people wanted to go there to win championships with those players, for better or worse. Trust me, I am a Tom Brady hater. Great player. I can never take that away from him. Nobody can. But, I hated seeing the guy win so much. But I respect him as a competitor. So, same kind of thing, right? Trout never had it, unfortunately. Was he the most talented player in baseball for that 10-year stretch? Yes. Is he still a very, very talented player? Yes. But Vince, he didn't attract anybody to Anaheim, right? He didn't. I mean,
at least one player, probably just Josh Hamilton, maybe two with Anthony Rendon.
Yeah, exactly. And that one we wish didn't happen.
But let's not forget, you mentioned taking a pay cut to play with Mike Trout. They didn't take a pay cut; they got the bag.
Yeah, exactly. So were they out for themselves? Who knows? And you know what? I respectfully, if you're a player and someone's offering you the money, you'd be an idiot not to take it, right? I mean, Vince, we're not going to negotiate less money, right? If your boss comes to you and says, Vince, I'm going to pay you $100,000 a year and I need you to do the same thing you're doing now. No one's going to say no. No one's going to say no to free money, right? For something you're already doing, which is being an athlete, taking care of your body, being a leader, whatever they're bringing you in for, right? Everyone has different roles in an organization. But anyway, my point is Christian Moore, Zach Neto, even Logan O'Hoppe, I can see being those guys in, 2 or 3 years, because are Neto, Schanuel, O'Hoppe, Moore, are those guys good players? Are guys that are going to be good players? Yes, of course. But as of right now, I don't think anyone's going to take a pay cut to come play with Neto or O'Hoppe at this minute. But in a couple years when the Angels are contending, I can see that happening. So that's what I mean by the it factor. I can now see some of these young guys having it, right? They have that spark plug energy. The game shifts when they get on base. They have that clutch gene. So maybe that's, bullpen pitcher, starting pitcher, whoever is in right now facing O'Hoppe, Schanuel, Neto, those guys more, they're going to be a little afraid to make that certain pitch, right? And that's what's nice to have. We haven't had that it factor in a while. And now not only do we have 1, 2, we maybe even have 3 guys who have that it factor. So, the future's bright here in Anaheim. I'm hoping it's going to come around sooner or later. I'm hoping we're getting closer to those days. I'm right there with you. You said that right now you were kind of expecting the Angels to be maybe about 2 games under 500. I'll take it right now where we are. At the end of the day, it's a step forward from last year. Last year, it felt like we were almost mathematically eliminated by July, right? Obviously, we weren't. The way baseball works, you're not really mathematically eliminated until like August or September for a bad team. But the point is, right now, it's July. It's the All-Star break is quickly approaching. And I think going into the break, we're still going to be competitive. Coming out of the break, they're still going to be playing competitive baseball. And when the deadline comes around, you're at least in a position where you have a choice to make. I still don't want the Angels to go crazy. I still don't want the Angels to push all the poker chips to the middle because we're not supposed to contend right now this season. Write it out. See what happens. You get any interesting phone calls for guys like Rengifo, Jansen, guys who are on expiring deals. If you could pull the trigger, trade any of those guys, and make next year's team better without costing this year's team too much, I still think you pull the trigger on that, even if the Angels have a playoff spot come their trade deadline. The season's still too early. I want these young guys to get us to the playoffs if they're going to do it.
Yeah, because you want them to know what to expect too, and then you want them to experience September in a playoff run, basically, or like exactly. because then they know, hey, we can expect this next year. We can expect this the next 5 years. So that's big right there. And I'm actually looking at the schedule right now, like if we could make how this month could pan out. As the recording of today, July 1st, they're playing Atlanta. They have a 3-game series in Atlanta. Then they
just won game 1 officially. Game's over.
Okay, perfect. So you got Toronto this weekend. Now Toronto can get scrappy against us. So that can go either way. We could either take that series 1-2 or 2-1. I don't think it's going to be a sweep on either side because we had some We had some tight games against them. I would just hope Anthony Santander is not playing that weekend, because if you remember me during that series, I was heated every time he did something well. Then after that, they got 4 games at home against Texas, which is also throwback week. So the 70s jerseys are going to be coming out for that entire week. And Texas, I mean, they're fighting for sure. They want to get over that hump against Houston. I think them and Houston are going to be neck and neck for the division. Maybe also Seattle is in the mix too, because right now it looks like it's a 3-horse race for the division, and it's a 2-horse race for the wild card, which is basically us in Seattle at this point. And Texas is going to be a challenge. When we played them in Texas, we took 1 out of 3 in that series, and I think a split might happen. My prediction, because we're used to Texas, and on top of that, Mike Trout, if he stays healthy, he loves hitting against the Rangers, so that might help a little bit. Arizona for the 11th, 12th, and 13th, right before the All-Star break. That is a toughie too, because Arizona's bullpen is just as bad as ours. It's probably the worst bullpen in the league right now, especially, and it shouldn't be, when you're playing in the NL West, because Arizona was predicted to be a wild card team. They were predicted to actually have the first wild card spot and basically be a better team than San Diego. That tells you something. They haven't shown it this year, and with Corbin Burns out, it hurts them a lot more. That series, I think that's our series to take right there, because Corbin Carroll, don't forget, Corbin Carroll also is injured too. He might not be back for that series. If he is, then it might flip the switch. So that could be the series for our series to win right there. Then we got the All-Star game in Atlanta. We don't come back until the 18th. We got Philly. That's a challenge, because Philly, they're pushing for a playoff too. They're actually pushing for a World Series. I think they have a shot at a World Series this year if their pitching can stay healthy, if Zach Wheeler still is on a sick one. But Aaron Nola, who should be the number 2, not doing so well. But the other guys that they have, they're just as clutch. Their hitting too is just as effective. They still have that same majority of the lineup from that 2000 from that World Series team that in 2000 from 2022. That's going to be a challenge. I think it's a challenge when we face Philly, and it's going to be at Philly. Sold out crowds. Don't be surprised. There's going to be sold out crowds. A lot of people are going to see Mike Trout because he's from there. The whole town of Millville is going to be over there for sure. So, yeah, it's going to be a fun series. Then we got the Mets in New York. Now, the Mets have had their peaks and valleys just like us, but it is going to be a challenging series. Unfortunately, Griffin Canning is out for the season with that Achilles injury. So, maybe it is like we don't have to worry about him, but it's unfortunate that happened, because Achilles injuries are not fun to look at. We all know that. We've seen it in basketball and we've seen it in football. It's prayers up for him for sure. And then to round out the month, we got Seattle at home for a 4-game series, the 24th through the 27th. And then we round out with Texas from the 28th to the 30th, right before the deadline on the 31st. Those are going to be our series that's going to define our season, because if we can win our divisional games, then we are contenders for sure, because people don't realize division games are more important than every other single game, because when you have tiebreakers, you win the series, guess what? You won up that team. So the Texas series, the Seattle series, those are the 3 series that for sure have to be circled, along with the Philly series, because that is probably the closest series that the Angels are going to get in a playoff atmosphere.
Now, the good news for the Angels is right now we're going to get a chance to see what they're made of, right? July is a tough month. You just went through it. And the good news with that is there's no dilly-dallying, right? There's no like, okay, well, hey, they just kind of treaded water in June as they went through this difficult schedule. And the month of July is a cakewalk. Now, also, cakewalks don't exist for the Angels, because the teams they should beat, the Pirates, the Nationals, they don't beat. But then the Yankees, the Dodgers, they have no problem with those teams at all. So I'll never really understand how the Angels operate in that department. But, we'll see by the time that final division stretch at the end of the month comes to fruition, we should have a good idea of what this Angels team is looking like and what they're going to look like post trade deadline. But I still would like to see a couple of moves made. I'd like to see this team get better for next year and, not cost too much of an issue for this year's team. Because I still want these young guys to play meaningful baseball games this year. But that's what I got for right now. We should probably get to the hot take. Vince, do you have this week's hot take in front of you?
Of course, and I even got the stats up for him. So first off, let's do a little backstory. The last 2 months, we've made Player of the Month predictions, even though we haven't officially called them Player of the Months. We just made bold predictions. May was Yusei Kikuchi would be the best starting pitcher of the Angels rotation. That hit. Last month in June, we said Joe Adell would lead the team in home runs. Now we said no, but we also had a bold prediction. At least I did. I said 9 home runs. He hit that. He hit 10. So he just hit the over. So yeah, we can consider it a hit. Now this month of July, Nolan Schanuel will be the Player of the Month for the Angels. I do see it happening because he's swinging the bat pretty good. Let's put it that way. But number 2, the All-Star break could help him. A lot of guys are different. Some players hate the breaks. When they're on a hot streak, they say, no, I don't want to go into the All-Star break. I don't want those days off because I'm swinging the bat good. And then all of a sudden they struggle in the second half of the month. There's others who say, well, you struggle, but the break is a refresh for you. But there's also players who on that hot streak, the All-Star break still helps them a little bit because they're probably getting some work in around that time. It depends on who you are. Some guys take a break. Some guys just still take reps in, but they don't overdo their reps. Maybe they take 50 swings instead of 150 swings for a week or something like that. They tone it down a little bit. Nolan Schanuel, I believe, is that type of guy who does that because he knows what he can do at the plate. He knows how he trains a certain way, and it's been working with him. And this is the month where we do need Nolan Schanuel. In the last month, we needed Joe Adell. Guess what? We got him. This month, we need Mike Trout. But we always need Mike Trout regardless. But I think we need Mike Trout more this month because he is back and he just has to stay healthy. Is the knee 100% healthy? There's rumors that it isn't, and that's why he's still DHing. And I mean, we'll know once he says, "Okay, I'm ready to go back in the outfield." Then we can say, "All right, he's 100% for sure." But you also have to contribute. Who is going to be the wild card of the bunch? I picked Nolan Schanuel. We had this conversation via the group chat. I picked Nolan Schanuel because he's that wild card that hasn't really sparked as much. He sparked it, but the flame still hasn't been high with him. And he needs to kick the flame up a little bit. So we need to get that red hot into blue hot, basically. And this is the month to do it. And the weather, I talk about all the time. The weather's warming up. The bats warm up. It's his time. He's long overdue. And I don't think it's going to be next month because August is the worst month for any player, regardless of who you are. So if he's going to get hot, it's got to be right now. Fireworks start now, pun intended.
Yeah, August is definitely when the dog days start, right? And that's kind of when veteran experience tends to take shape. And that's kind of why I feel like a guy like Tyler Anderson is going to be valuable to other teams, just because that veteran presence, dog days of summer, that's kind of when you need those kind of veteran presence. But that's a topic for a different show. Nolan Schanuel, let's talk about a season stack before we talk about the last couple games. So as of right now, 296 in terms of at-bats this year. He's driven in 41 runs. He has 32 RBIs on the year. He has only hit 7 home runs, but that's fine. He is not a power hitter, so we don't really want to see too many out of him. 3 stolen bases, 270 batting average, on-base percentage of 362 for him, a little low. I'd like to see that a little higher. Nolan Schanuel is, a guy who you want to be closer to 380 because he has a good eye up there. But 362 isn't absolutely terrible. His OPS is 764. Now there was a lot of people who were saying this was not a hot take because he's been, one of the more consistent players. And I understand that mindset. But this is the guy that in the last 7 games is batting 207. And the last 15 is batting 222. So it's not exactly like he's taking the world by storm over the last, half month of games that he's been playing. So I think it is fair to say that he isn't exactly hot at the moment. Is he cold? No. Is he a detriment to the team? No. This isn't us saying, oh, yeah, Luis Rengifo, the guy who's been one of the coldest players, is going to be, the player of the month. Now, I think Luis Rengifo is going to start heating up here a little bit because he knows what's in stake too, right? This is a contract year for him. So he wants to perform. But Nolan Schanuel is also a young guy who's trying to prove that he has what it takes to be part of this young core in an impactful way, right? People always talk about Neto. People always talk about Ohapi, but realistically, Nolan Schanuel is just kind of one of those guys, right? He's not the guy. People aren't saying that he's going to be that guy. And you would imagine that to an extent, Nolan Schanuel hears that, right? This is an age where social media is unavoidable. You just can't avoid it. He has a Twitter. We have people who will routinely tag him and us and say, hey, that was a terrible play. Hey, that was a terrible at bat. You mean to tell me these guys see none of that? You know what I mean? I don't think these guys are sitting there like Kevin Durant is after a game and reading these tweets because, Kevin Durant's notorious for that. But the point is, the noise is there. Luckily, he doesn't play in a market like New York. But Nolan Schanuel wants to also prove that he is a key piece to this working for the Angels. And he truly is, right? We don't talk about him in terms of being the face of the franchise, and I don't see him necessarily being that guy. But I definitely think that this team will only go as far as Nolan Schanuel will take it. You know what I mean? If Nolan Schanuel is batting 120 by the end of the year, that shows you that this team probably didn't have a good year. He's at the top of this lineup more often than he's not because he's very good at turning the lineup over. He's very good at having good at-bats. He's very good at having the guys behind him see the pitcher. He's very good at extending a rally. He's very good at moving base runners over. He is a good major league hitter, and that is super valuable in this game. Sorry. That's something that people don't bring up very often anymore. They don't bring up good major league hitting. They bring up power. They bring up, hey, this guy's fun to watch. But they don't necessarily bring up, hey, Nolan Schanuel is doing a very good job at extending these at-bats and giving the Angels opportunities late in games. So, I'll give him his flowers for that. I like what I'm seeing out of him. I like that even though his numbers are down right now, he's not a detriment to the team. He's not a guy that people are saying, hey, we should, option him, send him down for a little bit so he can work on his craft. Because people know that this team is better with him on it.
Yeah, and also I like him at the number 2 spot too in the lineup. It's because when he got to the league, he was a leadoff hitter because he wasn't a power hitter. He was just a guy who can get on base. That's why he led off every single game. And first basemen don't lead off, but he's bred differently. And I like him in the 2 because he's not trying to hit a home run every single time, and you can tell by the swing he has. It's a contact swing, and we talked about it after the Yankees series. The saying that I like to say is "Don't get too sexy." And that's the type of approach he has, regardless of when the at-bat is, what count, because he knows that in his spot as a number 2 hitter, it's to get on base, especially when you have a guy like Mike Trout behind you. And then when you also have Taylor Ward behind you and Jorge Soler behind you, you need to set the table for them. And then if you have Neto in front of you, dang, that's even just as well, because if you have Neto who sets it and then Schanuel sets it, Mike Trout can clean it all up per usual. So to have him there, it is a valuable piece. I do see kind of give a little bit of a Tony Gwynn-esque towards him, because I mean, yeah, he doesn't hit 300, but he still has that approach. One thing I really do like about Nolan Schanuel when he hits, and I noticed it when every time when during the Astros game, when he gets to two strikes, he is a two-strike hitter. He has a two-strike hitting approach, something that does not exist in this generation of baseball. Today, you get two strikes, still swing for the fences. It doesn't work. It works for some guys, but it doesn't work for everybody. So what Schanuel does is he widens his stance and he chokes up on the bat and he takes a shorter stride and he stays short to the ball. I don't think he's hit a home run with two strikes this entire season. So and it goes to show because he knows that getting on base is more valuable than trying to tag one into the right field pavilion. And he's had his fair share of crushing balls this season, but the 7 home runs says it all, because he's thinking, no, like I'm not here as a number 2 hitter to make this a 1-0 game or a 2-0 game in the first inning. I want to make this game maybe a 5-0 game in the first inning because I want to get the ball rolling for the guys behind me. And then the way that he keeps at bats going because he just stays short. I love more of that. And it's like David Fletcher. We had him in the time. Same thing. 2 strikes, one of the hardest guys to get out. Nolan Schanuel can continue to keep doing that. And if he keeps that approach for this entire month, and he does it against the divisional games especially, because he's played well in the division. He's played good against Seattle. He's played, I think, the best team he's played against who we have this month is Texas. So Texas better watch out for him for sure. But at crunch time, those are going to be the testing games to see how he really is. And then, of course, I mentioned Philly in a playoff atmosphere. Most likely the game's going to be sold out. And I remember we talked about it, or I mentioned it a few months ago. It's going to be a hostile environment. We know how Philly is. It's notorious for the rowdy fans. And for the Angels to be out there, it's going to be a test to see how they can adjust to a playoff atmosphere. Rowdy fans, great players, good hitters, whatsoever. So Nolan Schanuel, if you're listening, this is your month to shine, brother.
Yeah, you took the nail a hitter, the hammer square to it. Me personally, as somebody who played baseball for the large chunk of my life, and at very high levels, obviously not a major league level, but I digress. I will say that growing up as a kid, young adult, and even nowadays, I have always loved pure hitters more than I've liked power hitters. Growing up in San Diego, I watched a lot of Tony Gwynn growing up. Andrelton Simmons, Yunel Escobar. Some of my favorite, and I say that because I have a Yunel Escobar signed jersey here and the Simmons one behind me. But these are all examples of guys that were good hitters. They were 280 hitters. I mean, Simmons here as an Angel was a pretty solid hitter. Don't look at his Braves days. Don't look at his Cubs days afterward, especially not with the Twins. But those are all examples of guys that made good contact on the ball. Simmons didn't strike out too often. Gwynn never struck out. And now you see it with like Luis Arias in San Diego. These are guys that make good contact. They let the bat do the work, right? Anybody who's played baseball has heard their coach say, don't do too much. The bat's going to do the work for you, right? And you know exactly what it's like. Vince, how many times have you really just dug your heels and swung as hard as you could and made solid contact? It doesn't happen very often, right? The best balls are the ones that you don't even know you hit, right? How many times have you like swung and it feels like you missed the ball and all of a sudden it's like bouncing off the outfield wall? You're like, oh my God, I hit it. Because it was so smooth. You hit it on on the solid part of the barrel. You made solid contact. Or if you have a metal bat, you have, like when your coach would say, oh, you hit it on the label. You know what I mean? It was good contact. You didn't even feel it. Perfect. When a good batter knows how to find that plane, they know exactly, okay, the ball's coming in at me. I need to collapse the bottom side of my elbow. I need to turn into the ball. And that's a ball I need to pull, right? If there's a ball on the opposite side of the plate, Don't try to do too much. Step into it. You want to hit it the opposite way, right? These are the fundamentals of hitting. Don't do too much. Science will take care of it, right? Bat to ball, find the quickest way there. If it's coming in at you and it's a 2-strike count, you need to adjust, right? That's what Nolan Schanuel does. Doesn't try to do too much. Like you said, he chokes up on the bat, and if it's a bad pitch, he fouls it off. He does enough to extend the at-bat because a good batter is able to say, you know what, that pitch is too close to take. The umpire is squeezing me. I'm going to extend this at-bat. Nolan Schanuel has the ability to do that, and that is a dead art in this game. Nolan Schanuel is a pure major league hitter. He is a pure hitter that we don't exactly see in this day of baseball, this day and age of baseball. And I love hitters like him. I like that he doesn't try to do too much. But right now, once again, we need him to prove to us that he is a major league hitter and that he can come out of this. And my allergies are going crazy. So I'm going to step away for a second, take some water.
Yeah, well, we'll find out in at the end of the month to see if we're right again. Make it a three times a charm. So, but as we wrap up, let's talk about the sponsors. First, 714 tickets. 714 tickets. Make sure to use HITI, the code. You'll get 10% off your purchase, and you can use it anytime. I say that with a lot of emphasis. Fernando has used it. I've used it. Todd has used it. Everybody here at the Heating Network has used it. But keep on using our code to, once again, save 10%. And Brewheim, mention Halos in the Infield for drink specials. OC Dugout. Speaking of Nolan Schanuel, he will be signing on July 12th. And I got confirmation it will be at Carl Strauss again, the same location for the Logan O'Hoppe signing. So if you get the opportunity, yes, go meet Nolan Schanuel. Unfortunately, I will not be there. I'm kind of bummed, but you know what? I will be there in spirit for whoever goes in, whoever is there in attendance. And lastly, Fernando, you take this one, Max Market Pros.
I need to find the slide. But Max Market Pros is great for anybody who has a small business and is looking for help with social media, who's looking for help, in how to properly grow the business. They're definitely the ones to call. Yeah, reach out to them and let them know that Halo's in the Infield. Thank you. Bring Halo's in the Infield. Like I said earlier, follow us. Give us a 5-star review. All the social medias. Vince, follow him as well. At Angels_Cowboy Vince. I don't know if you want to give people maybe just a little bit of a peek of what you've got going on your side of the social media fence. Not too big of a peek because they need to go follow you.
Yeah, so just a little peek, just some rapid fire questions and opportunities that I got to meet some of the players and engage in conversations. What did I say? Go check out yourself. Once again, it's at Angels_Cowboy. And also shout out to the Halo boys, the guys in the robes and the and the Halos. I got an opportunity to meet them this past weekend. Great guys. If you ever see them, say hi, take a picture with them. They love the Angels community just as much as I do. And I hope to see them at more games. They actually are going to be there. They mentioned they will be there for the Texas series. So get your tickets for that Texas series. But, of course, most importantly, last but simply not least, 4th of July weekend, have fun. If you're going on vacation, enjoy your vacation on 4th of July. Enjoy the barbecue, the burgers, the hot dogs, the beer, whatever you do, the fireworks, the swimming pool, the beach, anything that basically is the definition of summer. But most importantly, please, please, please be safe.
Absolutely. Be safe. Drink responsibly. You guys already know. Use your best judgment. Enjoy yourself. Have a good time. Don't do anything Vince and I wouldn't do. But yeah, we obviously want all of you guys to come back together with us next week. Another thing that I want to take just a quick second to acknowledge. Today is July 1st, a day that a lot of people used to laugh about, right? It was Bobby Bonilla Day. And, that's still funny for what it is. Bobby Bonilla forever fleecing the New York Mets. But it's also a tough day here in the Angels community. We lost Tyler Skaggs now. what, 6 years ago. It's hard to believe it's been 6 years. That such a great life was lost. I had the opportunity to have very, very short conversation with him. Met the guy many times. I have plenty of stuff here in the man cave signed by him. Stuff that I definitely value a lot now, right? Tyler Skaggs was a pillar in the community. There's a lot of people who have great things to say about him. Obviously, the Tyler Skaggs Foundation existed before he departed and left the earth far too soon. I want to take a second without getting too preachy, just to say, for anybody who's going through a tough time out there, whatever it is, substance abuse, alcoholism, a divorce, a family member died, whatever, everybody's going through something, whether it's at that exact moment or, something's coming around the corner. Life never stops, right? There's peaks and valleys, there's ebbs and flows. Frogs have rainy days, whatever you want to say. There's high points and there's low points. And for better or worse, that's the reason why we wake up every day, right? Not every day is perfect. Not every day is amazing. And not every day could be amazing. As much as we'd love that, it just isn't possible. But that's also the beauty of waking up every day and having a chance to wake up that day. The day is what you make of it. And I hate to break it to you, no matter who's listening, there is a crappy day ahead. And that's not me saying that to discourage anybody. That's me saying, remember, we're all going through something. Take that extra time to tell your friend or your family member that you love them. If if you haven't reached out to a friend or a family member in a while who should be close to you, reach out to them, check in on them, let them know you're there, let them know you care. Because you never know what someone's going through. You never know. Maybe that phone call could be the reason they push forward. Maybe that phone call could help them go through something you didn't even know they were going through. So this isn't me being preachy. This is just me taking an opportunity to say, make the world a better place today. Thank your waiter. Thank your waitress. Thank the guy making your coffee. No matter how insignificant any of us might seem to the world's ecosystem, you know what? You're going through you have a really hectic, high-paying job. But guess what? That person who made your lunch at McDonald's just provided you a lunch. That person who made your coffee because you didn't sleep well, because your newborn baby kept you up all night. Hey, that's a blessing in itself because you have a newborn baby. But that person gave you the oomph to get through your workday because they made your coffee. No matter what happens, no matter what that person's role is in your life, no matter how insignificant, thank them. And just make them feel important, because we are all going through something. None of us knew what Tyler Skaggs was going through until he was taken away tragically. Substance abuse exists. If you're having those issues, there are avenues. Breezy Nolan's been on this channel. I'm sure she is definitely somebody you can reach out to if you're having any of those issues. But all this to say, there is help out there. Get help. I promise you are loved. This is not me saying that. This is not hyperbole. You are somebody who is valued. No matter what your role is in society, you are here for a reason. Whether you believe that's because God put you on this planet, no matter what you believe, you are here for a reason. Go make the world a better place. And I thank you guys for allowing me the time to give you that PSA.
You said it perfect, Fernando. I love you for that.
Yeah. I always like doing what I can. Just anybody who's followed this network for a long time knows that we try to make the world a better place. Whether it's donating a little bit of money to a special needs local baseball team, whether it was whatever the case is, school supplies to needy kids, even if it's just some words of encouragement. We care about our community. I promise you we do. You ever need anything from us, we can certainly point you in the right direction. I promise you that. Look out for me. And, Vince has a good head on his shoulders and a great heart. I'm sure I probably not just speaking for him, I'm sure he would also love to point you in the right direction if you guys did anything. But rest in peace, Tyler Skaggs. We honor you today. We honor every wholehearted person out there every single day. On behalf of all of us here at Halos and Infield, thank you guys so much for tuning in. We love you, and we will see you guys back here next time. Y'all be good now. You hear?
From Anaheim down down to the Texas plains, hot takes flying, riding off the range. Lone Star, Halo, Cowboy, Vince.
Hit the 50 mark. Cool.